Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Double9Radio. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm super excited. I'm super excited to have you on the show today. I'm usually kind of excited when I have guests on the show, but I think there's an elevation of excitement that's happened to me
Oh,
this
wow.
evening. I
Oh,
don't,
wow.
I'm sure my listeners are wondering, why is this guy so excited again today? He's always excited. Why is he excited? He said there's a higher level of excitement. They're probably wondering, who's making Double Nine excited on the show today?
Oh my goodness, I really do hope I am making you excited. But I'm really honored you asked me to come on to talk, and so excited to talk to you as well.
Amazing. She just elevated the excitement again. She says, she's honored to come on the show. But I'm honored to have her on the show. Fantastic. But before I get so excited I forget that we're having an interview. Can you just tell us who do you have on the show today?
You have me, Anne Welsh. So I go by on Instagram, Lady Anne Welsh. I am an author of a book called Painless, and the owner and founder of a company, Painless Universal, and many, many more.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, she's very humble there in that description of who she is. But, I tell you, she's such an inspiration to a lot of people. She's doing great things within the community and also lending a helping hand to individuals who might be going through some hard times and, making it, sharing the pain with them as well and sharing our own story, which we'll get into as we go through the show today. But, there are quite a lot of people that might think, Anne Welsh, I've heard that name before, who's actually Anne Welsh? Where can I find her?
Yeah, no, I get that a lot. A lot of people come up to me and say, we've heard so much about you. We've heard that name, Lady Anne Welsh, Lady Anne Welsh. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? It's like, honestly, it's very hard to say, when people ask you, who are you? And funny enough, I always ask that at the beginning of my show. I always say to the guests, who are you? Tell me a little bit about yourself. And today, I'm on that firing line, and who am I? I am Anne Welsh. I am a girl who started off from humble beginners. I was, born in Nigeria, and everything was just perfect because, growing up in a country where the weather was fantastic, lived back and forth between the Nigeria and the UK because we kept moving between both countries. I think it's partly to do with I was also diagnosed with sickle cell at a very young age of 6 months.
Wow.
And being diagnosed with sickle cell, that got my parents a little bit confused on what is the best place for them to be able to manage my illness. Is it better to manage it out there in Nigeria where the weather was much warmer and, really nice, but at the same time it had its own disadvantages to the healthcare system?
Yeah.
Or was it out here where everything is perfect, but the weather was a bit too cold and my parents didn't know how to handle it? So because of it, I was moving back and forth between the Nigeria and UK.
Okay.
But finally stopped the moving back when I was 18 and settled in the UK for good.
Wow.
I just go back to Nigeria just to go visit my family, whoever, my aunties and uncles who are still out there. So that's who I am in terms of the health. But I am a girl who's just worked incredibly hard. Got my first job at the corporate world, investment banking, but, I've always wanted more because I've always been told you can't achieve anything because you have this living disorder, sickle cell anemia. So with that, you can't achieve anything. Just try and do those little jobs. And I thought it was awkward for me to watch my own sisters doing well. One is working in the pharmaceutical industry, the other one is a pharmacist. And just to watch them doing well and being successful in what they were doing, I've always said to myself, look, I'm the older one of the two of them, my siblings.
Amazing. Yes.
So no, I can't just sit here and watch you girls. I have to persevere, and I overdid it. I've achieved myself, which I'm really proud of.
Amazing. I mean, one thing you said there, you're Nigerian. I'm so, that's amazing. That people that come from that part of the world can break the barriers of having that. You mentioned the sickle cell because when you diagnosed with sickle cell, a lot of people just think, oh no, I can't do more. I can't do anything. This is it. I can't break.
Yeah.
You know, do you know what I mean? But you saw that, or you inspired yourself. You know, actually, before I even go into that, I mean, what inspires Anne?
I think what inspired me is being in hospital, and I must say it's the nurses that inspired me, because they would come into hospital to come see me.
Oh, wow.
And they would smell so good because they've gone home. They're now fresh for the new day. And there I am in hospital bed, and I know you're wearing all this hospital garment and you haven't changed for the day, night, morning. And you're looking all rough and tired and sick. And they always inspired me, and I always said to myself, oh gosh, today I could get out of this hospital where I don't have to keep coming back in.
Yeah.
And I will vouch for myself to always take care of myself and always appreciate that opportunity that you have to take care of yourself, look good, work hard. Because these ladies, they will leave me they will leave me in the evening at 6 in the evening, and they'll be there first in the morning, and they always come in with a smile.
Amazing.
Doesn't matter how hard the job is. They'll wake me up. Oh, hello, Anne. Are you okay today? Oh, we missed you. You know, and that gave me that incentive that, you know what, Anne, as much as you're here and you're on that rough part where things are absolutely incredibly difficult, don't look at it that way. Just look at the positive. Look at these ladies. They're doing everything to make sure you are better.
Fantastic.
And that's what always inspires me.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, that's really good. That's really great, because you saw something every day, and you looked at that, and you saw, you know, you gained your power, your inspiration from that. Say, you know, I must get out of bed. I must do something. I must achieve something. And I'm sure, because you're a very ambitious individual, you just go for it. I'll make it happen. I'm sure at that point in time, you just, you know, building your empire in your head on how you're going to make it happen. You know, and it's happened now.
No, I lost so much time. Remember, I did start at my A levels when people were finishing A levels.
Oh wow!
So I started A levels at the age of 18. So that's when people are going to university. That was when I started GCSE at the age of 18.
Yeah, but Anne,
so
you know,
I lost.
You know, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree with you. That, you know, about you lost. No, I think you gained, because I think more of the thing you had was the opportunity to look at the world through a different vision, or I should say, you know, through a different eye of maybe experience kind of thing. Maybe to see and learn from other people's kind of mistakes, or maybe inspire yourself and look at, you know, all the things. Because at the age of 18, at the age of 16, for example, we have young girls probably want to have a boyfriend, probably want to go to the cinema and things like that. But at that point in time, you was nursing yourself. You was, you know, building that determination, or that you know, that inspiration, that burning flame within yourself to say, you know, I must get up. I must achieve this. I must do this. I think, you know, during that time, you know, you're able to build this resilience, which has carried you through, you know, till now. You know, I mean, for instance, we look at your huge following on Instagram. I mean, that's quite amazing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. As much as I think, because, you know, when you're growing up at that time, and even now, you always have the set criteria where people have always built the box for you and say, this is what you need to achieve. When you're 6, you need to achieve this. When you're this age, you need to achieve this. So as kids, we're always told this is our benchmark. So I started feeling a failure at an earlier age than anyone else did. I started feeling I was a failure when I was 18. I had to start my GCSE, and I still couldn't pass the GCSE because I was always sick in hospital, and I didn't realize what that was, that mentally. I know that now we talk so much mental, but that was just really, that affected me, because I didn't understand why my sister, who was 3 years younger than I was, why she and I now had to be in the same year. Yeah. And I thought, wow. So we ended up in the same college, and she would come in, and I would tell her, luckily we're different campuses, and I said to her, please, I love you to bits, sis, but never come to my college. And even if you do come to my college, just say you don't know me. Exactly. Even if they say we look alike, just say we don't know each other. Because people kept questioning, why is it your sister is in the same year as you. What went wrong? And I just couldn't answer those questions. So I think that beginning set of failures that happened in my life gave me a spin where I was always constantly questioning life, constantly questioning why me, why am I put in this hole, why can't I be where my friends are? Even at university, the friends would ask me, my set was all 1980 something, 86, and they would ask me, Anne, how old are you? I would just be doing something that would make me go numb, and I would panic.
Wow.
Oh, please, no. Don't ask me my age, because I've just had it in my mind that I was a failure at that age.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Double9, you are absolutely right, because that early failures and early not being able to achieve because of my sickle cell did not let me get there, gave me also a sense of determination that, you have to do it one way or the other. You just have to do it.
Amazing.
So, yeah, it did help.
It did. And I think, your story, which we'll get into more detail as we go through the show, as I mentioned earlier when we did speak, that it's quite inspiring. It's very inspirational. And it just shows you there's nothing you can't do if you put your mind to it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's you're right there. If you put your mind to it, but I think you need to do that, and also you need to not just put your mind to it. You need to find a way to surround yourself with amazing people.
Okay,
it's all about the people you surround yourself with, because I think they are the ultimates who will guide you and keep telling you, lifting up your courage, and saying that you're doing a great job, keep doing it. And that's what eventually I did. I surrounded myself with great people.
Fantastic. That's really great. Okay, I mentioned about your Instagram followers. You got about 700,000 followers on there.
Yeah.
How did that all start? How did that happen?
That happened not easy. It wasn't an overnight.
See, I'm taking notes now. I'm taking notes.
No, yeah, that was not overnight success. It started off with when I started when Instagram first came out, and I was talking a lot about fashion, and style, and more fashion. And I did work in parts of Africa, and I was touring, and I always used to tell them about my Instagram. And I always tell them, better subscribe to it. And then one person would subscribe and the other person would subscribe. And I was traveling a fair bit of amount. I was traveling around the world, and I would be doing speaking. And I wasn't thinking much of it, because at the time Instagram wasn't as big as it is now. I would just say to them, better try and look me up and go to a fashion show. And people would say, I love what you're wearing. I'm like, just follow my page and you see more of me, or we could connect that way.
Yeah.
And I would go to even big churches events and, big events, and I would just do things, and I would tell people, just follow my Instagram page. Honestly, I didn't think much of it, but I think the ripple effect, they call it, is that once one person follows you, especially if you go to a community of young people, like I remember I was in Egypt, and I was in a community of young people, and they just were all following me because I was having a fashion show there.
Right, okay.
So it's not an Instagram of just people from the UK. It's an Instagram of worldwide, for places I've been around the world.
Amazing.
Because every time I travel, I always like to do speaking engagement, talk to other people, and that was what led to the build of the Instagram page. But it was a very slowly process, and then I also understood that I had to improve my content. So I started spending a lot of time and investment on the content, on what way it was presented, that it was meaningful to anyone looking at it.
Yeah.
So you could look at you get a fashion on there. If you're a woman, if you're a guy, you can look at it and you get the interesting quotes. If you're looking at it, you get something like, when we should travel, I used to do holiday destination. If I travel here, I would do a photo shoot in Dubai. I'll go to America, Brooklyn Bridge. I'll do a photo shoot
Amazing.
So people started getting curious. Oh my God, are you been to Brooklyn Bridge? How was it? Where did you take the picture? What was the best time to go take those pictures? That was how that led to the build of the Instagram page.
Oh, mate, amazing. Do you get to interact with your followers as well? Do they, send you messages, DMs and things,
Because I have to be honest, and I always even tell the followers, because I have a chronic illness, and then I have to say that as much as I really love my Instagram page and I want to be out there for my followers as much as I can, but at the same time I try and balance it because I've got my chronic illness. I'm a mother. I'm a wife.
Yeah, I mean that's 3 jobs you're talking about there already. Yeah. You know,
I have the companies I have to grow. I'm running 2 major companies, and I do other work where I volunteer my time for many other works, and I have to travel a lot. So I only give the best I can.
Of course.
But I don't put it in my mind that, oh my goodness, I absolutely have to answer everything. I just let it be. If I can, I can. If I can't, I can't, because I want to make sure the ultimate priorities are my kids, because my son is in year 11. He's doing the 11 plus, and I need to make sure that I'm actually supervising what he's doing and helping him.
Family is very important. You know, family is always going to be there, and you know that family love and family unit is very important. So yes, I would totally agree with you on that note. Ladies and gentlemen, the phone lines are open. It's 074-956-36899. Don't be shy. She'll love to talk to you. You can send a WhatsApp or text as well. No WhatsApp calls. You can only call direct on the show. Okay, let's talk about Painless Universal. You're the founder and president of Painless Universal.
Yeah.
What is Painless Universal? What does that stand for? What is it about?
That came from my book. Last year I released the book Painless. It was just Painless, and Living with Pain, Finding Joy was its name. And the whole point of the book was to give it part memo and part self-help book about how I dealt with living with sickle cell anemia, which was incredibly hard for me. It was hard being a child with sickle cell. It was hard growing up. It was hard getting married. It was hard being in a relationship. It was hard. So I wanted to put it out there, but I didn't want to put it out just for people with sickle cell, but people with chronic illness. That it doesn't matter what you're going through. Yeah. You're going to get challenges, and this is my memo, so you can see how difficult it was for me. At the same time, giving you guys some guide on this is what I did. And the book was very successful. I was actually blown away. It took me to America, it took me to Bahrain, it took me to many African countries, like Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana, many countries in Africa to talk about it, and Europe as well. But I thought, okay, I'm talking about the book. Well, I'm not doing anything else. I'm just talking about my book, which is great. I love talking about my book. I could sit down here, talk from chapter to chapter about my book. But I thought that more needs to be done, and I can't stop here. Something kept saying to me, and more needs to be done. You need to not just stop that energy here. You need to put it elsewhere. You need to put more into this. And the only thing that my advisors were telling me is that you need to put it into a company where you officially really make this a real tool to help other people.
Yes.
So this is where Painless Universal was formed, and surprisingly, it really works well with everything going on in today's world.
Yes.
With the pandemic and everything. And I didn't know anything about this, but all of a sudden, this pandemic and people are needing more help than ever.
Of course.
The company is really a company out there to help people. It's out there to help CEOs who are dealing with any kind of pain, redundancy pain, pain of integrating people. Because all of these pains is what I went through. Like I remember when I was in the corporate world, I went through so many pain of being integrated as a woman, a disability person, because I had sickle cell. I just had, I had so many, and black women as well. There was just so many things against me.
Wow.
That it was so hard for the corporate bosses to integrate me. But when I taught them about myself, it was just flawless. My job was excelling. I started getting promotion. So I help companies who are having a difficult time, who are going through challenge of pain with a person they've hired and not sure how to integrate them. Then I also have the show aspect of it where I talk to other people who've dealt with pain, and they share their beautiful stories of how they've overcome those pain and found joy along the way. Or sometimes I could also share stories of inspiration of people who who are giving a passion and purpose to life. And
Amazing.
So my company is there to help corporates, the community, individuals from the show, and governments, and advise governments on one-on-one on how to deal with any pain that they might be, or difficult subjects regarding pain that they don't want to talk about. I look at that.
Amazing. We'll share the contact details of the company before the end of the show. I mean, you mentioned earlier about your Instagram page. We've got 700,000 followers. You're posting about holidays, posting about photo shoots, fashion, amazing things, But you also decided to now share your story. What ultimately compelled you to share that story? Were you scared of how people will take it or how people will react, to the story about that chronic disease?
Oh gosh, it was absolutely difficult sharing my story because I'm one. I like to talk to people. I like to help other people out, but sharing your story is not easy.
No.
I remember when I started writing the book. I started in 2014, and I enjoyed writing the first bit of it. Then I got. I think my editor read the book and said, "Oh my goodness, this book is so empty." I'm like, "What do you mean it's so empty?" But it doesn't say anything. It doesn't say any kind of struggles. It's all about, I live with sickle cell. I went to university. It was all positive. It's like, come on, you must have had struggles. You can't have been all positive. I was like, yeah, I did have a lot of struggles, but I don't want to put it out there. It's not for people to know my struggles.
Yeah.
He said, and I don't see the point of you writing a book then if you're just going to write, everything was lovey-dovey.
Everything was rosy.
No negative.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, let me check that with my family. So I gave the draft script to my family to read, and it's like, and honestly, we've read other books, and your one just is not motivating in any way. This is not your life. You're just sugarcoating, and you only put in 5% of your life. This is not your story. And I said, but I'm so nervous. I don't want to tell people I failed. I got ungraded in one of my exams. How do you open your mouth to tell people this? I don't want to tell people I was 22 when I started 18 when I started GCSE. That doesn't sound. I don't want to tell people I was bedwet in the bed until I was 13. Oh,
wow.
My sister said, unfortunately, if you want to write this book, you have to put that story because this is what people want to hear. They want to hear the struggles. Then they want to hear how you found joy at the end of it, how you overcame the struggle. It was now biting. So I took a break. I said, okay, let me think about it. I took a year break. And in 2017, when I was pregnant with my daughter, a voice really whispered in my ears and said, this is it. You have to do this.
Amazing.
You just have to. You have to do this. And I spoke to my great mentor. And I said to him, what do you think? He's an amazing mentor of mine. And he said, you have to do it. You have to. But I said, my story is awful. It's very degrading. It's no human should go through this. He said, that's the beauty of your story, is that it has all bad things, but you overcame them. And you are here today and you are able to talk about your story.
Amazing.
So in 17, I put pen to paper and I did it. I was pregnant with my daughter. I think that was a good thing to do it then because my head was writing the story, but at the same time I was focusing on being pregnant. So I didn't have the time to have self-doubt because every time I want to have self-doubt, the pregnancy got really difficult. So I would have to deal with the struggles of my pregnancy. Then I would forget about the self-doubt and just kept writing the story.
Yeah.
And that's how it came about. It was honestly, everything is out there, the good and the bad.
Amazing.
It's been worth it because now I'm able to share other people's stories from my own story.
Exactly that. I mean, you mentioned quite a lot of challenges, especially when growing up. And, can you describe some of those challenges you faced with the sickle cell and anemia?
Sickle cell, initially, when you're much younger, you're not quite sure what you're going through. But I think when it really hit me is when I was about 6 in reception. And a little girl said to me, why are you the teacher's pet? You you leave school and when you come back, the teacher is still so nice to you and no one asks you, why did you take time off? And she was also very curious, why do you always take time off? And she was also very curious about why is it that I can't be her best friend. She tried to give me reasons why I couldn't be her best friend.
Yeah.
And I still remember. She just said, look, when you leave for 1 week and I don't see you a few days, and all of a sudden I see you a few days later, and it doesn't make sense because I'm alone the whole time, and then you come back. I need to be with someone else. It's like, look, and I would love to be your friend, but I can't because I don't want
can imagine that.
Who am I going to talk to when you're sick? I didn't understand any of that. All I understood was that I was always sick. I was always in pain.
Yeah.
And growing up, it was challenging. It was always challenging because you couldn't place yourself. There was a void of life where you just couldn't place yourself. And also, there was a lot of restrictions placed on my life. Every time I want to try something, there's always someone there saying, no, you can't do this, you can't do this. And it's incredibly hard to hear someone constantly repeat to you that you can't do this, you can't do this. So you're almost like, okay, I can't do this, and no, I'm not going to do anything else anymore. So it was challenging. It was also challenging with relationships because my mum was very protective. She wouldn't let us go on dates, especially me because I was the first daughter.
Yeah.
But I remember sneaking out one day and going for a date, and all of a sudden I got sick.
Oh,
God
no.
bless my. Always has to happen. Always has to embarrass me. Got sick, and I tried to hold it and didn't want to tell the guy, guess what, I'm sick.
Oh, no.
So I held it in so hard, and we went back to his apartment to just, start having chats and watch a movie. And all of a sudden, the thing got so
bad.
worse.
Wow.
And I just said to him, please call the ambulance and call my mom. This is my mom's number on my phone. Could you just call them? The ambulance came to pick me up. And I told my mom what hospital I was going to. Oh, my goodness. I didn't date again I didn't date again after that.
Yeah.
It was too embarrassing to even think about. And my mom met me in the hospital, and she's like, where were you? There was a guy who used your phone to call me. Where were you?
Yeah.
I just passed out because anyway, I was in so much pain. I couldn't even listen to her. I was just like passed out and didn't even bother. I was like, and then when I woke up the next day, I think she's like, oh, well, she asked the same question. I said, Mom, honestly, I just can't remember.
Amazing.
But how the guy got my phone, she's listening now. She probably now knows. But I just said, I just can't remember.
Sorry, Mum.
Yeah. So, it was difficult growing up. At work was more challenging because you get to a certain age in life where you think you need to now become an adult and contribute to your society.
Exactly.
Not dependent on your mum or your family. That, for me, was the hardest bit.
Amazing.
Finding a job and keeping a job was my hardest and most painful bits of living with a chronic illness, because now you have the responsibility of now being an adult and taking care of yourself. And you want to prove that you can do it. At the same time, you can't. It's really, really, really difficult to do it because you're going to a job and not a lot of job understands because they see me and they're like, well, you look perfect.
You look all right, isn't it? Yeah, they can't see it. They can't see it. This is why, in a way, I appreciate coronavirus, what it's taught us, that not because you can't see something doesn't mean it's deadly. It's not deadly. Yeah.
It's with sickle cell, you can't see it. We look fine, but a lot of people would get judged by it, and a lot of people look down on us and say, "Oh, you look fine. What do you mean you can't carry that archive? Your first job. People always want you to do the archiving." And I'm looking at, I can't lift this. I just can't. I know my limits here. If I do this, I'm just going to get myself sick. But they don't understand, and they just think, "Oh, you're trying to be difficult. So you're expecting me, the boss, to do it for you." And then you force yourself to do it, and then you get home, and you're sick. So I had to resign from the very first job I ever tried to do and rely on my sisters to work and tell them that we just have to make a path. When you guys make free, we only have one bank account, and we in one bank account, and I become the bank manager. That's my job. I dispense the money how I see fit.
Amazing.
It makes it creative.
Yes, you do. But I mean, at what point did you decide, all these challenges you're going through, which you described, which, I mean, I can't even imagine what one used to have been going through or been through. But at what point did you decide, you know what, I'm not letting this hold me back from living the life, I imagine for myself?
Oh gosh, I think it's when my doctor called me aside and said to me, and I'm not happy with you. I tried to understand what he meant. He's like, and I'm not happy with you. And God bless his soul, he's late now. But he said, and I said, why are you not happy with me? He said, I did an autopsy of a person with sickle cell, and I didn't like what I saw, because people don't understand sickle cell, that they see you and they see you're fine. But inside, he said that was the worst autopsy he's ever done in his life.
Wow.
That the bruises internally, the damage the sickle cell was doing to the person internally, he's never seen that. That he wishes that bruise was on the outside, so more people better understand the pain and suffering people with sickle cell tend to go through.
Wow.
And it says to me, and you've been in hospital every week, and we have to find your vein. We now have to use your neck, your feet. And I don't like that. I don't like that for you. I don't think the body could keep taking this beating. He said it's like someone breaking their arm every month. It will not be physically possible. It's not right for you. And I just, it's hard to listen, especially when you don't see the physical damage. You feel it in your body because you're constantly weak, you're constantly tired.
Yeah.
But that was a good turning point, because I had to reset then. Also, again, my mentor called me aside and said, why are you always feeling pity yourself? You need to look around the world and look at other people and look at the suffering of the world, and you need to come back home as well. That's Nigeria, to see challenges some of the other people are going through.
Sure, yeah.
Not everyone is, but some people are going through massive challenges. You need to come and see how they are still smiling and they're still successful, still doing well. So why you're so fortunate, everything is given to you. You have you've got the opportunity, you've got a good job, and the job really hired you and gave you this, they gave you this opportunity to come through the disability scheme. So they gave you, everything was done for you. You had special chairs, special people working with you. You have everything. But, sometimes in life we forget what we have, because we always want. And I forgot what I had. I forgot I had great doctors, great family. And that reflection really got me thinking that, and I need to now start being grateful. I think this is one thing Thanksgiving is very important, is that it's the time to just reflect on what you have and forget even what you want. You just have to reflect, this is what I have. I have this. Yeah. I am alive. I am alive. So I am able. Yes. And let me just forget the rest of it. Let me just focus on this bit and start here. I am alive. I am able. And I need to start appreciating it, because, yes, sickle cell is doing so much for me. It's making my life so miserable. But at the same time, I could change that narrative of that story.
Amazing.
And that's when I started reflecting and doing that.
Amazing. That's great. That's really wonderful. That's such an inspiring story there, because you now took the bull by the horn and said, you know what, I am going to make something of myself. I'm not going to let this, disease hold me back. I am going to be Anne Welsh, and the whole world is going to know. And you're doing that. You're doing that. But I mean, you mentioned something earlier about, because people can't really see, the effects of the sickle cell, the disease itself, because most people look a bit, look normal, they look okay. Do you think this is the reason why people don't share the stories? Because people think, you're looking for self-pity, because they don't truly understand, the effects of this, this chronic disease?
Honestly, I think it's the lack of awareness and people being free to share it. I think it stems from its heritage, back where sickle cell started from. And I think it stems from the family as well. because I speak to a lot of people, and I still get a lot of people decline wanting to talk to me in my conversation because they said their parents have said to them, if you go and talk about it, then you're not going to have the opportunity to get married. And I've talked to people who've got married or about to get married, and all of a sudden they found out, the man's family found out they were sickle cell, even though they are AA genotype. This other family found out they're sickle cell, and they just broke the marriage off immediately and said, look, we don't want a sickle person in our household, so you better break that marriage off. So now I've had so many conversations around this, and it's very difficult for people with sickle cell because there's stigma around it. There's still that, even when you talk about it, it's better the people say to us, it's better you talk when you've at least passed a certain level of your life, when you don't care. But when you're trying to achieve things, I spoke to a young boy, and he said to me, if I tell people at my university, people would laugh at me, and they won't let me take part in sports. They won't let me do anything because they're always so self-pity. I've been kicked off an airline because I collapsed. Yeah, I collapsed because I was very tired. I just fell down, but it wasn't a massive collapse. And I just came out to tell the airline, oh, by the way, I have sickle cell. Do you know they kicked me out the airline saying, sorry, we can't take you. You need to go get a doctor's. You need to get a doctor's note to certify that you're able to travel before you get on the next flight. Wow. I'm like, but you left me in the middle of nowhere. What do I do now? So when you live with sickle cell and you go through all this, when people don't truly understand what sickle cell is, and you go through massive, massive barriers, then there's a lot of reason why we just shut it down. And if you ask us, we just say, oh, we're tired, this is why we look like this, or we haven't eaten much. But it's just because we're always so afraid of the negativity that would come with it. And back in the days, people thought we were bad kids, we were witches or wizards, or whatever they thought we were. And
lack of awareness. Amazing.
Yeah. So all that has created a massive, massive barrier, and it's created a lack of language of communicating that, yes, we have sickle cell, but we can still do this. We're not that. We're not those sick kids that you need to beat the life out of us until we spit out the evil spirit out of us.
You know, amazing. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Okay, fantastic. Okay, we're going to take a short break now. I will be back on the other side to get more inspiring stories and great information from Anne Welsh. Do stay locked on, stay locked in. We shall be back on the other side. It's your host, Double9, on Double9Radio. Hello, welcome back to Double9Radio. We have the amazing Anne Welsh on the show today. She's great. All I can say, she's a very inspiring lady. I'm glad to have her on the show. Hope you having a good time as well on the show. And welcome back.
Thank you, Double9Radio, and yourself for having me. Thank you.
Thank you again. I mean, we've been talking about Painless, your fantastic book, which you wrote, which took a lot, actually, as you mentioned, and it was quite difficult about you sharing your story. But you went ahead and did it as well, which is quite amazing to know. And I'm sure a lot of people have been inspired about your story. I mean, me for one, talking to you today, I've been inspired and, still being inspired, I should say. It's a continual thing as well. And it just shows that, what you mentioned earlier, you put your mind to it, anything you want to do, and also have the right people around you, you're sure to achieve great things as well. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we talked about just briefly about why people are reluctant to share the stories, about, sickle cell, or having sickle cell. And you mentioned about, individuals being maybe discriminated against. I mean, that's the only word I can use, because when you on a plane and they tell you, because you have this, you have to get a letter from a doctor in the middle of nowhere. I mean, that's a case of discrimination. But, it's quite unfortunate that that's happening. I'm sure, hopefully, things are changing around that as well. Your story is quite inspiring, But what was the hardest part to write in Painless? Where did you find that, you struggled to write about in the book, Painless itself?
I think the hardest bit would be my childhood days. I think is that just being a child that there's a lot of pressure on children, and I even look at my kids and I try and refrain myself when I try and push them excessively hard. I think it's those days of being a kid. Even though my parents were wonderful parents, and my mum and dad always supported whatever decision I came with, but it was still challenging because at the end of the day, I would see them put pressure on my sisters and trying to get them to do as well, but not me per se, because they always would say she's sick, and she's sick, just let her be. Don't worry about her. So that those little sideline of me being the elders of the both of them gave me a lot of negative, and that was very difficult to talk about in my book, because at the same time I had to do it in such a way that they were not offended, that I was feeling insecure about their certain things, and also just certain habits that came with being sick all the time with sickle cell. For example, my dad would make me drink lots of water before I went to bed, and I would beg him, saying, "Look, I don't need more water. Do I have to drink this?" He was like, "Oh yes, you need to do it, because if you drink, the more water you drink, the less chances you are of getting sickle cell." And I will force myself to gulp all this water, and this is just right before I sleep. And that's the wrong thing to do to any child, it's a chronic illness. And that will make me, I'll go pee the first time, but the second time I just like, you know what, I'm sick and tired of getting up to go pee, and I'll just do it in bed. And I was doing this, it became a habit for me. That laziness became a part of me. So rather than train myself to stop bedwetting, I kept doing it. So that was very difficult for me to say a girl of my age was bedwetting to this age was very difficult. But my editor told me, it's not about you, bedwetting. You have to look at it different way. You were doing it because you were forced to drink water, which your dad had to do because he didn't want you to get sick. But at the same time, no one understood the consequences of what that meant, that I was drinking. So what they should have done is give me water in the morning rather than at night time before bed. That was a massive struggle to put in there. Put that story of me saying, "Oh yeah, I'm bedwetting."
I know, it's fine. Yeah.
And the grades as well. I didn't do very well in school. So just to talk about the grades, and it was hard to put those things in it. It was very, very hard. So all that was most of my life, with my teenage life and my child life, was very, very difficult. There were a lot of difficult stories in there. Amazing. That I put in there that I really found, oh gosh, do I have to do this? But it has transformed and helped so many other people around the world whose kids are going through something very much similar, and they are now understanding the best way to deal with it and tackle those problems that I freely talked about in my book, and they've now learned to deal with it.
Amazing. I mean, when did you realize your story is not having that impact on others? It's giving them that light. It's giving them that ability to wake up the next day and take on the challenge. When did you realize that your story had that effect?
Gosh, I think I realized that. I would say when I started getting emails sent over to me and lots of letters sent in my post box saying thank you so much for sharing your story. And sometimes you wonder, oh my goodness, how did they even find me? But people know how to find you when they want to find you. So I started getting lots of thank yous letter from major people, especially because my book was forwarded on by many very prominent people. I started getting thank you from them as well, saying thank you for being so open to share your story, that this story means so much to people who are suffering with sickle cell around the world. And I started getting this compliments from other people as well, not just from people with sickle cell, but people with other chronic illness, people with cancer, cystic fibrosis, you name it, diabetes. They started contacting me and saying, thank you for writing that book, that this book really resonates with me. And at first, I got some barriers blockage because people would say to me, oh, we don't want to read this book because it's so we're down, and we don't want to read something that's so down. We just want an uplifting book. I said that's the joy, is to learn the down bit, but the joy is still, there's so much joy at the end.
Yes.
And I have to convince them to say, just try read it, and if you feel it's any way down, just feel free, put it down. It's all right. But a lot of them persevered and they kept going because it's not such a big book. It's just an easy read as well. And they found there was so much light at the end of the tunnel, and it made them, even couples, I met a lot of older couples who I would give the book to, and they were like, get back to me and say, Anne, thank you so much for sharing this book with us, even though we don't have a chronic illness. But what we like about the book is that it tells a very, very deep story, and it tells you that it doesn't matter what you go through in life, that you could still find joy at the end of it.
Amen.
So,
To that.
so that joy at the end of it made a lot of people so excited because they were always keen to get to the next chapter to start finding how I started getting my joy.
Amazing. I mean, we're gonna touch on that as well. The thing I like so much about the story and how you've narrated the story and also given a bit of an insight to it, it's like there's no fiction involved. This is reality, and that it should be so inspiring to even people, as you mentioned, who don't have no chronic illness. You understand that regardless of whatever you're going through in life, if you have the right people around you, if you have that determination to put your best foot forward, you can achieve anything.
Absolutely. I think we should never underestimate the thing about determination, consistency, willingness to, put yourself above others and put yourself above others. And people say put others before you, but I always say put yourself above others, because if you're fine, if you're well, you're able to give to others. But if you try and do it the other way around, then I really think that's a big mistake, because you need to make sure that you are really able and capable to do this before then you could then start giving. And once I realized that equation, for me, that changed everything. I realized that I have to not look at what anybody else is doing. I have to not be comparing or compare myself to anybody. I have to not look at other people's race journey. I had to realize my own journey is going to be different from other people. I might have graduated at this age, but I need to understand my own journey. I need to understand my own person or who I am and what do I bring to the world. And what I bring to the world is very different from what Z or Y bring to the world.
Of course.
So when you start really identifying that and knowing you, putting yourself above everything else, then you start noticing that you start appreciating you. You start appreciating your journey, and you start understanding why your journey was that way, why your journey started off very clumsily, very hard. And then you start understanding the message your journey was built for. That the journey was not just there for own self, but the journey was there to teach you a lesson, that you have to learn very much, so deep about it, that you could then pass it on to others and help them out in their own struggle.
Amazing.
So these things never happened just overnight. It took me years and years and years. It took, I remember my sister making a comment one day, and I remember I was on a business trip in Madrid, and my sister said to me, we're just talking, and I called her, like we randomly chat, and she said, oh gosh, the day you moved out of the house, I was the happiest person ever. And I just ignored it, and we hanged up, and I went back to my room in the hotel. I started reflecting on what the hell did my sister mean by saying things like this. Why is she so rude about me? That how dare her say to me that the day I left the house was the happiest day of her life? And I started reflecting, and then I understood what she was trying to tell me.
Exactly.
She was just saying to me, because I didn't understand myself. I was an awful person to be around. I always used sickle cell as an excuse, and I made their life difficult in that process. I always blamed my illness for everything that happened to my life, even though sometimes it wasn't sickle cell that caused that problem. I automatically put sickle cell at the front line. So that made my life so difficult. I made other people's lives so difficult. And also sometimes, the drugs we take for the pain management also doesn't even help matters. So I always used to be so anxious and very anxious, very depressed. I didn't know what was causing all of this. So I would come back home from hospital. I would say, I don't want anyone to speak to me. I would go in my room and shut the door, and I would say to my mom, I want to eat this. There was no please. There was no because in my mind, I was the only one suffering. They were not suffering. I just believed that I was the one who was in hospital. I was the one who was being injected with all the injections. So I was the one suffering, but they were not suffering. So how dare they have a right to be happy when I have been through this hell? So indirectly, I had to make their own life hell. But I didn't realize until one day I was on the other side of the coin.
Amazing.
My mom got sick, and I had to go to hospital to go see her. I think she was it was snowing in London that day for a long time, first time in a long time, and I think she was running to cross the road, and she was walking fast, and she slipped and fell and broke her ankle.
No.
And I got this phone call saying, my mom is in hospital, you should come see her. I think, my mom, it's always me in hospital. What the hell? Why is it her now in hospital? Why not me?
Yeah.
I've never had this case scenario in my life. Why is she there? And I went to the hospital and I saw my mom, and even though she slipped and they had to do the thing, then she also wasn't feeling well. And I saw the stress on her face, and I became anxious. I was like, oh, is she going to get better? I hope everything is fine. And I felt the anxiousness in my tummy of being very nervous about my mom for once in my life. I had to take that responsibility of being anxious about someone for their own well-being. And I realized, my goodness, it's not nice being on the other side as well. And the way I was treating them was not nice. And then I reflect and said, I need to understand who I am. And this is why I said it's very important as a human being to understand you.
Exactly.
So to give your best.
Exactly. I mean, the statement your sister made, saying that, she was glad, very happy the day you moved out, was possibly saying that, she was happy that you've actually progressed into being independent.
Yes.
But by that point, you took it as, oh my gosh, what does she mean? Why would you say that? But it's understandable. It's understandable. But it is true. We as human beings have to understand that even though we feel on one side to be suffering, type of illness, the individuals looking after us are suffering a different type of, emotion. It could be, emotionally draining on them as well to see their loved one, in this particular state as well. I mean, but what are the main misconceptions of sickle cell? You mentioned one before where, lack of awareness and individuals, especially maybe in the African or Nigerian, society would say it's a witchcraft. It's something, because of the lack of awareness and around the sickle cell disease itself. But from your point of view, or from your experience, what would you say are the most common misconceptions about sickle cell?
I think the most common misconception with us, I think, is the lack of, there's so many that you just even don't even know where to grade them. With sickle cell, I think, is the fact that people just automatically call it the black disease. So that gives people that, other people that knowledge, do I really want to help that person to get better and do more research into it. So that misconception is the black disease, not realizing that because of there's so much intermarriage now, that it's no longer becoming the black disease, it's becoming everyone's disease. Because I was very surprised when I went to Bahrain and they said I went to the Sickle Cell Society and I saw other people with sickle cell there. I was really shocked to see this, and not just there, there's other parts of the world, in Brazil as well, India, America, and this in Puerto Rico. Around the world, I've been there, and I also met people with sickle cell, people blonde eyes, blonde hair, blue eyes.
Wow!
And you see them, and you just can't believe that this person has sickle cell. So it's that first misconception of that it's just a black disease, not realizing that sometimes it's best to take care of a problem so it doesn't get worse. And with sickle cell, people just neglected it. But now people started to understand that it's not just a black disease, it's a serious illness that needs to be considered. then it's and the lack of aware understanding of the pain, because it's not like anything where you could say, oh, you could put me on this scale and say, oh, this is how much she weighs, so we know this is what we should do to treat her. Or you could go do diabetes, you could see how much sugar level, so I need the insulin. Or you could do, high blood pressure, you could do the pump, and you could do that my blood pressure is high or low.
Yeah.
There's no machine to measure saying, oh, this is the pain, from the machine saying this is the pain this person is in. So because we haven't got a pain measurement, it's set by the doctors ask you, on a score of 1 to 10, how bad is your pain? Like 1,000.
Oh, my gosh.
And when you say that, the doctor's looking at you like, I'm asking you a serious question. You say 10. But still, for them, what is 10? It's just, you just said 10. But if it's high blood pressure, you can look at the machine. It tells you what the number is. You know what to do.
Yes.
For other things, you know what to do. With sickle cell, you don't know what to do, because all it is you have to just judge based on what the patient is telling you. So a lot of people who don't know about sickle cell automatically assume we're drug addicts. We're seeking drugs, and this is why we are out here and given the score of 10, because we need more morphine, because that's how you treat our pain, it's by giving us more. So people, and especially when there's a repeat of your crisis, because sometimes you might have a crisis this week, you'll have another one next week, you have another one the following week. For a person who sees you, is thinking, why is this person always in hospital? Is this person just a drug addict? And then you start getting very bad mistreatment from the doctors and from nurses and from the whole people. They look at you funny. They don't even want to give you your drugs because they feel that why should we give this person who's so highly dependent on the drug anyway? So all this is a big thing that is a very big barrier for a lot of people with sickle cell, is that there's no accurate machine that can measure our pain. So people are using their knowledge there. Then there's also lack of understanding within communities. Yeah. Because we don't, as a community, we don't talk about it. You'd be surprised within my own black community when you ask certain people, oh, do you know what sickle cell is? I'm like, what's that? You're looking at them like,
where you been?
What's that?
Where
have you been? What you mean was that? Have you not tested your blood type before? Have you never done any of this before? And the way they respond when you say you have sickle cell, it really puts you in a very sad place. Very, very sad place, because you're thinking, gosh, if my parents knew about it, then probably this would have been different. You guys have just chosen not to know, and as far as they're concerned, they say, well, we have other pressing needs on illnesses, and we don't want to think about sickle cell because we've never heard about it, so we don't even know if you're making this up, so please, just move on. And it's very, very discouraging.
It is. It's quite disheartening, yes.
Yeah.
It is.
So these are some of the issues that we people with sickle cell go through. Then one that I really sympathize is when people are on the trying to claim benefits because the unpredictability of the disease could cause you to be in a position where you can't do anything. You can't do anything. You apply for a job today, you're meant to go for the interview tomorrow, and there you get sick. Then you go to disability place to go get the benefit. On that day, probably is your best day. You're looking very well. They decline you because they look at you. They judge based on the way you look. So we don't have a machine to measure our pain. We don't have anything. So they just judge you based on the way you look. And they just automatically say, you know what, you're not entitled to it. And the next day, because of the distress that has caused them, that person now does not know how they're going to feed themselves, what they're going to do with their life, how they're going to even get by, and not even how if they're able to keep a job. So this is some of the downside.
It is quite serious.
It's important. Yeah.
It is quite serious. I mean, we talk about the emotional effects or the mental health of that individual. I mean, it's going to cause a lot of adverse effects. On that person.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, Karen.
No. You're really right. It's really that effects, and I think things would change one day if there's ever a machine that can measure people's pain. I don't know if that will happen, but if there ever is, that would definitely be a big breakthrough for people with sickle cell.
It would be. It would be. I mean, the last example you gave about someone going to, a job centre, to be assessed for, access to benefits, and because the person looks a certain way, and because the disease is invincible, and maybe they're not having a crisis on that day, and they get turned down for that, that would cause a huge emotional distress, which could actually lead to some mental health issues, including what they're actually suffering. I do hope things around that can be addressed as soon as possible, and I know you're doing great work in bringing this to light as well, to let people become more aware of the challenges individuals suffering sickle cell do go through. I mean, another thing you mentioned about the Black society, we tend to not understand the effects of sickle cell disease as well. Also, you mentioned individuals not being able to understand. You need to check your blood type, when you're going to a relationship, when you're just to know it as well, because anything can happen where you need blood and things like that. But I mean, we'll get to this, the part of where we have the stigma of people not being able to give blood. But I want to go to a bit more of a lighter note. We're talking about, let's talk about your joy, your happiness, because I love your smile. As I look at your pictures, I'm like, wow, look, she's got a great smile. But
thank you.
When you hear the story and the journey of where you started and where you are now, you kind of think, how has she done it? How have you been able to manage that joy and happiness?
Oh, gosh, I think it comes again back to that same point about putting yourself above everything else first. Then you understand, and taking that time to understand who you truly are. And once you understand who you truly are, then you understand your weakness, your strength. You're almost like you have to do the SWOT analysis on yourself. And people actually put some spin on yourself. I said, because the reason I had to do these things on myself is because I needed to know what my strength was and how I could put that into good use. The opportunities, where am I positioned as an opportunity for others, and that was by my book. What my threat was my illness. It was not. It was my big blocker wouldn't let me go there, because I had to. If I had to do this, I had to ask my sickle cell for permission, or figure out a way to take. So you look at your strengths, you look at your weakness, and then you also look at your weaknesses. What does that cost you? It makes you nervous. It makes you anxious. It gives you depression. It makes you lonely, because sometimes you find you can't talk to people. So when you put that, you just have to write a board out there and really look at these things and say, okay, how do I make these things less, the weaknesses less, or how do I utilize people now to help me add value in the things I cannot do? And how do I give value in the things I can now give value? And then you start seeing the wants from people about you, because you're lonely. It's an illness because you're not communicating to anybody. You're battling everything all in to yourself. You're keeping it to yourself. But when you look at the SWOT analysis and know what are your strengths, opportunity, and weaknesses and threats, you look at the opportunity and say, okay, I'm good at this. Let me reach out to people. I like talking to people. I like doing this for people. Let me focus on that aspect of things. Then you say, the ones I can't do, then you can't do that. When I started doing this and started practicing more and more of it and integrating them with my family, my friends, my great mentors, I started understanding, wow, I'm loving my new life. Because now sickle cell does not define me, but I define sickle cell. I understanding myself. I think I understood my weaknesses, because I realized it's not always about me. Not because I have illness means that it's all about me. I have to be considerate of other people's feelings as well. And when I said, when you start mixing the pot, you start getting joy from it. start getting a nice concoction of all the SWOT, and you mix it, and you start getting that joy because you could see
Amazing.
that you are making progress. You could definitely see progress being made, that you're actually adding value finally in not the things you thought you could, but the things that really needs to be done and the things that you're really good at. So when I started understanding, this is what I am good at, this is what I enjoy. I really enjoy doing this. You know, I wasn't what I said, I'm not even going to think about the money because I'm going to live for what I have, not for what I want. So if more comes, that's a bonus. And
Amazing.
That was my philosophy.
Amazing.
I didn't want to always give myself stress. Oh, my goodness. But then I, have so much direct debit, have this. I try and live within my means so I wasn't stressing myself.
Amazing.
At the end of the month, oh, gosh, I have to earn more so I can put this. But I worked hard to get more.
Yeah.
And if that was a bonus. If it didn't come, then I didn't have to have sleepless nights. So that helped me to shape myself, and I started shaping others because people started looking at me and thinking, wow, how is this lady doing it? How is this lady to say she's a sickle cell sufferer? That when we were allowed to travel without the COVID, I could be traveling for months on end and would not even get sick because I started understanding, doing things I love, and
Amazing.
I was also concerned. So I think it's all these things that people need to identify with themselves, and that then a joy. All of that filters when you start understanding what your true joy is.
Yeah, understanding what your strength, your weakness, your opportunities, and threats are. That's a great way to actually assess. Do a self-evaluation of yourself to give you that true joy and happiness that you seek. I think that's really good. I mean, we talked about just briefly about the black, black society. Where, so should I say, black community, where giving blood seems to be. There's a stigma around that. I mean, I think there's a bit of a data, that I checked quite recently saying about only 1% of black people donate blood. I think that's quite appalling,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you think the community can help sickle cell sufferers?
You mean giving blood and the donation side?
Yeah.
How
do we break the stigma,
Oh, gosh, I think the stigma will only start from our own homes. If your mother, your father, your sisters are not going to give blood, why would you expect someone else to give you blood? I think it's our own home. We have to start with our own home. And I always tell my kids, it's always about excellence has to start at home. We can't look for it outside. We have to look for it within our home. What are you doing to make a difference? What am I doing to make a difference? And if you look at yourself and you're one person making a difference within your household, then that filters down to 2 other person, 3 other person. That makes a huge difference. And I always encourage my sisters. I said, look, you guys are healthy. Why not? Why are you not doing blood? Why are you not giving blood? So I think we need to encourage our home to be comfortable with doing this. Just think about it. If your home is not comfortable, that means home B, home C, home D are all facing the same thing. So there will be a gap. There will be that massive gap. So we need to see how can we encourage our home people, our aunties, our uncles, our siblings, our brothers and sisters, our mothers and fathers. How can we convince them to start looking at this as a positive way?
Yeah.
And so they can tell the other people that I did this and this was good, it wasn't bad. And then I get other people to do it. But if our home cannot do it, because if I cannot convince my mother why it's important that this is necessary, because they go to hospital, they see me sick, they want the blood, but they never think about where this blood is coming from. How do they get this blood? If this blood is not here, they've never thought about it. So we need to teach them. We need to teach them from home that this is very important. And if they don't, then this would really affect. So I say to everyone, the blood bank people, NHS blood bank, I always say, best way forward is that we need to figure out how to get it into the black homes for it to be a topic on the table.
Yeah, I mean,
Discussion.
it is very important because it's one of the ways to treat sickle cell sufferers, where you have blood transfusions to help reduce the effects, or put the disease under control. And you're quite right. Starting from home, kind of having that conversation, to break the myths and the stigma attached to blood donation, because a lot of people think, oh my gosh, they're going to take all my blood. Oh my gosh, they're going to use my blood for something. It's just because of this, lack of awareness again, that causes this type of thought process. And, people think, okay, they're going to take this amount of blood in my body. Is it going to be back? How am I going to get it back? Your body's going to create it. Your body creates it again. It's it's like a well. It refills itself. It's not.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean, you've given like 2 liters of blood. That means you're going to be shot 2 liters of blood for life. No, it's coming back into there. Actually, maybe it's actually even a good way, because it helps your heart work a bit more, because the adrenaline out wants to pump more blood out of the heart, and also flush out any kind of cholesterol along any veins or arteries. See, look at the benefits around that.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. So I think that conversation is needed on the table.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's just something that we can't neglect, and we need to start at home to start doing it. Then our parents should take it to the churches. We go take it to the outer community. From our home, then we take it to the community. Then we take it to the corporate. Then we take it to the government level. But first, it must start at home, where people start getting comfortable about doing it and understanding the reason, the importance of why it's important that they give blood.
Amazing.
To people, the Black community.
Amazing. I'm sure, hopefully, that will change now, gradually, as we all should, understand that, yes, we do need to engage in this activity of blood donation. Okay, let's talk about Anne Welsh, the amazing, fantastic, inspirational lady with a fantastic smile as well. Ooh, so
thank you.
You're very hardworking. You talked about working in the investment. You're always traveling. You're always in Zoom meetings. You're always busy. You're always doing something. But how do you recharge? How do you recharge yourself? And what do you do when you want to forget about work?
That's really hard. But I've realized that at the end of the day, if you don't have that energy, you can never give your best. Your brain is never functioning right. Your body's not functioning right. So why do you not make the time out to just do what you need to do? Before I thought it was all about work. I just had to work as hard as I can to be where I needed to be, because of the guilt I felt by being so behind. But as I got older, I realized it's not about always playing catch up. It's also about working smart as well. And it took me a while to learn to work smart, learn to balance it all. Before I could never go to the gym, because I always think that 1 hour could give me enough time to write my presentation, to do this, to do that, to contact 5 other people. So I would never recharge. But when you're constantly in hospital and when your work then gets a big knock effect because of your cycle, or being a mother as well, you also have that big effect, because you want to give something to your kids back, but you don't have the energy. When it comes down, then after work, I then have to hang out with the kids. Then I'm so tired. I can't even I'm waffling. I'm not even making sense what I'm saying to them. I can't even see my kids. I can't even hold them. Then I realized that, and this needs to be a balancing act. You just can't work this way.
Yeah.
So I started training, and I started finding my joy there. I started realizing this is a good way for me to reflect and recharge myself and feel better. And it also gave me the encouragement to, really find who I truly was. That work is not everything. That everything was that when I'm rested, when I've slept well, when I'm eating well, and when I'm keeping my body active, I do perform. I found I was actually performing 20 times much better than when I didn't do any of these. So I thought, oh, wow, I feel good. So good. I'm answering questions so fast. I'm responding to email faster. I'm doing everything. I'm able to remember every single thing
Amazing.
that is on the paper. Then I thought, and this is giving you joy.
Yeah.
Do not neglect it for anything.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, if you could have a conversation with younger Anne, what would you say?
I was asked this the other day, and I just said, and always remember, you're loved. You are perfect. You are tortoise, and you might be a snail. You might be slow, but you'll get there.
Amazing.
As long as you're consistent, you keep going.
Just keep going.
Just don't slow down. Just keep going, and so don't try to be faster than your own pace, because that would literally wipe you out. Be consistent in your own pace, and be appreciative of who you are, because your own story is a story for millions out there.
Amazing. You know. Okay, what is a fun fact about Anne Welsh? Tell us a fun fact that no one knows. This is it. The exclusive. No one knows this. Anne is going to share with us.
Oh my goodness, about Anne Welsh that no one knows.
A fun fact.
I don't know. I haven't got any, I think.
No, Anne, no.
Honestly.
Oh my word. She doesn't want to tell us. She's keeping it close to our chest. She doesn't want to give us the exclusive. Oh no.
But you know, if you have to know anything about me, I love dancing. I love being silly. I find joy in being a comedian. I'm a comedian.
There you go.
I can make anyone laugh, and people will think I have to be in the mood, but I am that comedian. I laugh at everything, and I know how to make people laugh. I can make the worst situation funny. And people were like, and how did you think about that? I'm like, I don't know, but it's funny, isn't it? So that is me. I always look at the glass. I never say it's half empty, but I always say it's half full or whatever. But I'm that kind of person.
Okay, fantastic. All right, let's go to we've got some questions that have come in today, so I'm just going to grab a couple because of time. So the first one is Femi from Hendon. He says, what are things the community or society could do to help address the problem of the blood donation within the Black society?
Oh, gosh, yeah, that's really a good one. That's a lovely question, Kemi. I would say the Black community just need to start talking about it more and engaging other people, engaging their fellow communities, fellow brothers, fellow sisters, and telling them the importance and why it's important for them to do it. For example, I start in my own household. I always encourage my sisters, if they're well enough, I always say to them, look, guys, have you thought about giving blood? And let them pass that message on to other people. And also encourage a lot of Black people. We go to churches. We are very community people based, as much as people might not see it, but are. So we should encourage it to talk in churches as well, because it's quite important. A lot of us consider giving blood, because it's really very important and vital part of many people living with sickle cell.
Okay.
But if we don't have the right blood, people don't realize we get a lot of antibodies. Then our body starts rejecting the right blood, blood if they're not the right match for us. And the best match for a Black person is a Black person's blood. Funny enough, weird as it sounds, that is the most perfect match for a Black person. So
yeah, probably the genes. Yeah, the genes are playing in that. Okay. Another question from Jane in Grace. Jane says, if you could inspire a movement, what would that be?
Painless movement. I think I'm really starting on that path right now. It's a painless movement. It's about people living with pain, but let's figure out how to find joy. We're all going to have pain. Doesn't matter what it is. We're all going to have pain. For me, it's a painless movement, because so many people are suffering and you don't know it. So many people are suffering one way or the other. It could be financial pain. It could be divorce pain. It could be aging process pain. It could be chronic illness pain. But the one thing that links us all to it is that we're all suffering pain, because all these things causes you pain. You're lonely, you're depressed, you're anxious of all this. Everyone gives me the same old story. They're all going through that. So the movement is that how do we tackle that pain to find joy?
Amazing.
How do we tackle it? Yeah.
Okay. Final question from Greg. Greg is in, where is this? Edmonton. Says, what is your favorite life lesson?
Oh, gosh, my favorite life lesson. Gosh, there's so many of them that I think is being kicked off the plane.
Oh, wow.
Because I was in the middle of nowhere. I was in the country, middle of nowhere. I was kicked off the plane, adamant that I was going to go back home, and said, you can't fly, and until you get a doctor's note. Where am I getting a doctor's note in a country I know nobody?
I know.
And I did not know where. I didn't even have a hotel booked. I didn't even know how to get a hotel book. I didn't even know if there was any hotels around there. This is a country in Africa.
Wow.
You can imagine, one of the countries in Africa. So that was a big life lesson. It's about everything you do. It doesn't matter how perfect it is. Think about the consequences. Think about if something goes wrong, how are you going to deal with that? I didn't have this action plan. I didn't think about it. I just believed that I've done my first round of flights, and now on the second round of flights, going 8 hours back to London. It's fine. I'm about to board. And they said, sorry, you're not getting on that flight.
Wow.
That is my biggest life lesson, because I say to people, life changed for me in an instant. Do I sleep in the airport? Which I don't know. And even if I do sleep in the airport, I'm not helping myself, because, one, I still need that letter.
Yeah.
I need to start thinking, where am I? And then internet doesn't even work. So
wow. Okay.
all of this, you need to think about them. That's a big life lesson for me.
It is a big life lesson. Okay, and, what will be your final message to people about sickle cell? What would you like them to know?
I want people to know that sickle cell is a genetic condition which affects many people, but people with sickle cell are not lazy. We're hardworking. They're very creative as well. That we just need more and more support and more people to understand that the pain is a serious pain. It is very, very painful. And I'm sorry for everybody out there that we can't measure our pain to tell you how bad it is. But I could tell you, it's almost like someone's using a hammer to hit your bones.
Wow.
It's that bad. It's so bad that you can't, your brain, everything freezes out from the pain. And I just want people to understand that we don't making this up. This is serious. And we're trying our hardest to be better people and to contribute to society, not be a burden. And I want people out there who just have sickle cell kids to not be afraid, but to be grateful that they even have a baby, and just look after the baby, and that baby will be a perfect baby if he or she's given all the love and care that he deserves or she deserves.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you very much. And I'm so inspired. I feel like being a philanthropist. I feel like being the mouthpiece of the Sickle Cell Society. Now, I think I'm going to be talking about this more often to encourage people to go out there and be involved in blood donation as well. I mean, just before you go, can we the contact details for the Painless Universal? How do people get on board? How do people get more information? Is there a website or email address?
There is everything. There is a website on www.painlessuniversal.com. There is my website and an Instagram page at Lady Ann Welsh or at Painless Universal. I've got a team who manages all those accounts, and they will respond immediately and get back to you. And I would also respond and get back to anyone through, because I love to be in contact with people, so I tend to respond a lot as well. So this is the best way to reach out to find me. But if you really have to talk to me, at Lady Ann Welsh is always the best way. And if you have Working Guys about Painless Universal, you go to the Painless Universal page.
Fantastic. And I want to say thank you very much for coming on the show today. I've had so much fun, having a conversation. It didn't feel like an interview. It felt like an inspirational session where I'm so inspired right now. The fire's burning within me. I want to say thank you very much for taking time out to come on the show. I really appreciate the stories you've shared with us as well. And also, yes, hopefully we'll be giving away one of the books as well to one lucky winner. You know what me, my listeners, I'll always look after you. But we'll share the details of that competition soon. Just stay locked in, stay locked on, and we would know. And just before you go, any last hurrahs to our listeners?
I think we're leading to Christmas, the holiday season. I think people should just not take the negative from this year of all the negative, because people with chronic illness, we've been living with pain for a long time. And a lot of people, this must be a big shock to them. But I would tell them that, look, they've been pain this year, but there've been also lots of learnings from this year, and take the positive out of this year. And don't say this year was a horrible year. It was a year of learning and growth. So take that and run with it.
Amazing.
Think about what you've learned from this year. Think about what you've built from this year. Think about what the knowledge is giving you, the time you've got to spend with your family, which you've never, ever done in your life. Be grateful for this year, because it's opened up more opportunities than we've ever seen in our lifetime.
Amazing.
And we just need to embrace it and take this and learn from it.
Amazing.
Don't be disappointed.
Amazing. That's wonderful. That's great words of advice there. And again, I want to say thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Have a fantastic weekend ahead. And I'm sure we shall be talking to you again in the future as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And you have a wonderful time. And I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for inviting me. I love this. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.